Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have another brand new PNSO figure to take a look at, and it's not just any figure, it is the second Yangchuanosaurus that we have had within the past few months. Yes, we have another version of a Yangchuanosaurus, and if you can see, this is Yangchuanosaurus magnus, which is a different species of Yangchuanosaurus compared to the one that we had previously. You can see the box art looks pretty good, it looks pretty much like it usually does. Nice image there of the figure. Of course, the name and species right there. If you turn it around and take a look up here at the top, you can now see another image of the figure. And then nothing really going on over there. You got a little shot over here of the head again on the other side. And then, of course, once you turn it around, it's going to be the same thing on the opposite side. So let's pop this box open and check it out. So right away, we do have ourselves a little poster in here, and I'm pretty darn intrigued to see what the poster is going to be. So let's open it up. And it looks like it's a little dino toy photography. You just never know if it's going to be that or if it's going to be a different image of some beautiful artwork, but you can see it looks really cool. There's definitely a whole lot of glare going on the poster, but you can see it looks really, really cool. Definitely another really nice image again for this release. You always have incredible posters from PNSO. On top of that, we also have the stand that we would use to prop the dinosaur up if it starts to have any stability issues, as well as the little sort of a book, kind of a pamphlet kind of thing that we have, a little booklet that they give you, and inside you're going to find all sorts of information on the Yangchuanosaurus, as well as really cool images. So usually like a little photo gallery, there we go, of the figure itself, which looks really cool. And then again, some really neat images as you move through. You can see some nice hand-drawn images, as well as an image over here of the skull of the Yangchuanosaurus. I always love these because they're just so informative, and they're just generally a fun read, as PNSO always gives you a little extra bang for your buck. And then here is our Yangchuanosaurus itself, and boy did that ever stand up very nice and easily. So definitely no stability issues on this one, but yet again, this is an absolutely gorgeous looking figure, and I always love when you see the images that PNSO releases for the prototype. You can never truly tell how beautiful it's going to be until you see it in person, because I feel like sometimes with the images, you just don't capture all of the slight variations of color that you get with the figure, whereas once you actually have it in person, you really can then take notice to that. Again, you can definitely see some really nice reddish brown tones as you move through the body of the figure, but it looks really nice here again at first glance, so let's jump to a closer look and check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Yangchuanosaurus, you can definitely see a really nice fair amount of detail, as you always find with PNSO. You've got gorgeous skin texture everywhere, from the eye socket up to the snout here. You can see the nostrils there on the tip of the snout, of course, and you can also see, in something that's pretty typical, I would say, at this point of PNSO, we have this darker coloration here in the scales that are kind of running along the jawline, leading up here toward the tip of the snout. But then we also have a little bit of a light wash there, highlighting some of those scales. That's something that they do quite often, and I am a pretty big fan of that. You can also see, as always, lots of variation of color here in the face of the dinosaur, and that's something that they are also very good at, is adding just very subtle differences in the most smooth and natural way to the coloration. And you can see that here, especially in the palette, where we have a few different variations of kind of browns, as well as that black that sort of stripes through, kind of leading from the eye heading toward the jaw. And then you can see that we have a darker tone that follows along the jawline here of the lower jaw, as well as again some variation of color. You've got this brown here, but it lightens up very nicely right here, and then leads down into the throat with that lighter tone. So lots of really nice coloration there. You can also see even some reddish browns kind of leading up here into the top of the head there, up toward that crest area. The eye is painted with a yellow, given a nice black pupil. And then again, the opposing side also sports a really nice, really small eye, but again, very nice, careful and precise paintwork. Everything looks superb on this side as well. Of course, we've got an articulated jaw, which can go about that wide open. Definitely looks really cool. And then as we lead into the inside of the mouth, again, I'm always prepared to be blown away by the inside of the mouth of any PNSO release. Look at that. That is absolutely insane. Every single time, I'm just never fully prepared for how incredible it's going to look on the inside of the mouth of a PNSO release. You can also see the teeth are all sculpted. They look like they're sculpted individually for sure up here on the upper jaw, again painted with a mixture of a brown as well as sort of like an off-white, and they do kind of have like a little bit of a gloss coat to them as they're shining a little bit. You can definitely see that. And then again, the teeth for the lower jaw, they kind of look like some might be sculpted close to each other, but for the most part, again, they seem to be sculpted individually and again painted with the same tones of color. We also have a really nice tongue sculpted in there, and again a nice pinkish tone with a reddish wash and maybe even some other variation of color on the inside of the mouth. It's a little hard to tell just what all's going on in there, but it looks really good what we can see, and there is also again a nice gloss coat to give it that saliva-like look, and the jaw works really nicely, really smoothly, again allowing you to pretty much place it anywhere you would like. As you lead back here into the back of the head, you can see the ear right there. You can also see a bunch of, creasing and wrinkling in the skin of the neck because the dinosaur has its head turned toward its right. You can also see some ridges picking up here running along the spinal column. They start out really small and increase in size as they lead back here into the neck. There's like some osteoderms and stuff picking up here and there as you move through the course of the body, but primarily we have some really fine skin texture and scale detail moving back here through the course of the neck. You can also see some of those reddish tones, kind of like reddish browns, picking up here as we have this darker tone, like a very dark gray, leading down from the upper side, basically overtaking the entire upper side, but then kind of like striping and patterning down. And as always, that application of the paint is insanely smooth. There's also a nice dark wash on the figure, which I'm picking up on, and that is something that PNSO has done continuously for probably the last 10 to 15 releases, and I've been loving every second of it because they're just so good at applying that dark wash to make the detail pop in the best and most realistic way possible. Like, just look here at the throat and how good all of that fine detail looks, that skin detail, and how nicely it's brought out with that dark wash. As you move up here into the body, you continue to see this patterning where we have that darker tone leading down and, just sort of designing down into the body, but you also have that nice reddish brown as well as a lighter tone down here. And you can see how smooth all of those colors transition back and forth and how nicely placed that patterning is. Again, how realistic the application of the paint for that patterning really is. You can also see we are overloaded with osteoderms moving through, but again, we continue to have that very small fine scaling in here as well. The dark wash is again just highlighting all of the detail perfectly. As you move down here into the arm, you can see some nice wrinkling and creasing to the skin right there back behind the arm. Moving down, you again can see the dark wash really highlighting the detail again in such a nice subtle way. As we lead down into the hands, you can see we transition to a dark gray similar to what we have running along the back of the dinosaur. The nails are also a dark gray, even though my camera's not focusing very well on them. There you go. You can definitely see that the nails themselves are painted. It's not like they just ran a dark gray over that area and then called it a day. They are a slightly different shade from what we see in the fingers. There's also, again, some nice scoots running down the fingers of the Yangchuanosaurus. Really beautiful scale detail, very reptilian scale detail moving down there. You can also see the skin here stretching off of the stomach, again leading back here with the thigh kind of pulling it. You can see more nice detail here on the underside of the dinosaur. A few more areas of kind of skin stretching and wrinkling and stuff moving up in front of the thigh. You can see the ridges have definitely increased in size here moving along the back of the dinosaur. But again, I love little things that they add to models like this one sort of ridge there being a little bit smaller. Just little things like that, I think, add an extra dose of realism to models like this. You can see the hip bone, as well as, again, some muscle definition running down the thigh, but not overly defined. Lots of nice skin detail here with, again, creases and stuff in the skin moving down. You've got the calf muscle nicely defined as well. You have the kneecap here in front of the leg, and you can also see that darker tone run down the front of the leg. And again, we transition to that grayish tone similar to what we had seen on the hand as you move down into the foot of our Yangchuanosaurus. And you can also see we again have that nice light wash, something that they always do, which I absolutely love because It just is so realistic to me. Definitely, what I would expect to see, especially moving down into the feet, you would expect them to have kind of like dust and dirt and stuff kind of sitting between the cracks and crevices of the skin texture, and it really does add a nice dose of realism, I think, to the figure. You can see the nails, again, are painted with that dark gray. They're sculpted really nicely. We've got some scoots moving down the front of the foot down into the toes, and then you can also see, if we turn it around and my camera focuses, there we go, we do have a dew claw back there. As you lead back up here toward the tail, you can see again some really nice skin detail, nice scale detail increasing and everything down there. And then you can see that the dark tone here kind of breaks up and the patterning sort of like stripes down as you move out through the course of the tail. And this gives you a really nice chance to look at those gorgeous reddish browns that we have on this figure. Nice curvatures to the tail as well as you move out, and then we end with that dark tone overtaking the tip of the tail. You can get a better look at the curves kind of from up here. Maybe actually that might be the better view of it. And then moving along the underside, you can see all of the scale detail, skin texture, the cloaca and everything present down here, and you can see how nice of a job PNSO has done of highlighting all of that detail again with that dark wash really nicely. And then as we turn the figure around and we take a look over here at the opposing side, like we already had taken a look at the head, but moving into the neck, you can see all kinds of wrinkling and creasing in the skin moving down. You can get a little bit of a better look, I think, at the actual patterning moving down the neck as far as the striping goes, because it was a little bit kind of like jumbled together over here just because of the turn in the neck, whereas it's more so stretching over here, allowing us a little bit of a better chance to look at that. As you move down, you can see the arm is held back a little bit further toward the body more so than the other arm, so there is a little difference. And you can see that reflect up here in the stomach region as we have the, skin texture kind of wrinkling and creasing right there as the elbow sort of pushes into the stomach. You can continue to see again all of those osteoderms moving through, the insanely impressive paint job as well, because PNSO absolutely is untouchable nowadays, I think, when it comes to their paint apps. You can see the arm sculpt again, the nails and everything painted. You can also see how this leg is taking a step forward, kind of wrinkling the skin there of the stomach region. And then again, we lead back. We've got the thigh. Nice skin stretching and everything off of the tail here, leading into the thigh again, showing the movement here of the Yangchuanosaurus walking. As you lead down, you have a very nice looking foot sculpt. This foot is planted. You can see the opposing foot there's picking up off of the ground, whereas this foot absolutely is just flat on the ground as the dinosaur walks along. Really nice sculpt, nice paintwork yet again, and then we lead out again with the very nicely sculpted and painted tail. So I would say that this is probably my favorite Yangchuanosaurus so far from PNSO. This thing is honestly just absolutely gorgeous here in hand. As far as a size goes for the Yangchuanosaurus, lengthwise, you are looking at, it's going to be a little hard to actually get this length, I think, because of the tail kind of turning away from us. So let's go ahead and do it from this side. It might be a little bit easier. So from the snout to the tail, about 12 inches or around 30 centimeters, somewhere in that vicinity. It's a little hard to get. Actually, more like 11 3/4 inches, I would say, or right around 30 centimeters. And then for a height, the highest point would be the back of the neck, about 4.5 inches or around 11.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Yangchuanosaurus here, showing you that this one is absolutely a good bit larger than the previous release of the Yangchuanosaurus, and this actually, I think, is a very good chance that it's the biggest one so far to come from PNSO. But for another comparison, we've got ourselves a Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus next to the Yangchuanosaurus for yet another comparison. And here is probably the most interesting comparison, because we have the Yangchuanosaurus that was released previously, only like, that's probably like 4 releases back or so, maybe even less, maybe even like 3 releases back. For the Yangchuanosaurus, again, next to the newer version, the Magnus version, and you can see a pretty massive difference in size between these two. So, obviously, again, showing the 2 different species that PNSO has made so far. And then here is a comparison with the older version of the PNSO Yangchuanosaurus. Again, just to show you that these two are pretty similar in size. So I guess the newest one isn't the largest version so far. If you actually put them kind of in front of each other, it's definitely the tallest version so far, for sure, but no, I guess actually it is the largest. It's definitely a little bit longer than the older one. They're fairly similar kind of in body mass, but The newer one is definitely a little bit longer and a little bit taller than the older version from PNSO. So this brand new PNSO Yangchuanosaurus magnus this time is absolutely fantastic. And that is absolutely not a surprise because they always give us fantastic figures. I feel like at this point with each and every release that PNSO dishes out, it usually ends up being like the best figure out of that species. And especially now, the fact that they've added lips onto their figures, I think potentially makes them the most accurate as well. But then again, we've also always had lips when it comes to the Yangchuanosaurus. That one had lips way back when they released that first one. But overall, again, the sculpt is really beautiful. Very nice fine details, showing off every ounce of skin texture on this to perfection. And as always, you've got a nice little pose for it as it's just kind of walking along. It doesn't look like it's any kind of a crazy or dramatic pose, just a nice natural pose overall. And it looks almost like it's sort of surveying the landscape, deciding what it wants to do next, if it's going to go, try to grab itself a meal, maybe it's going to go lay down. It kind of looks like it's almost in the debating process as far as what its next move is. We also have really, really nice paint apps. Again, another nice, smooth, naturalistic paint scheme for the figure. Gorgeous tones of color used as we have like a very nice reddish tone moving through the majority of the body, and then again, that nice patterning moving down from the back looks really good. The paintwork of PNSO is always as smooth and naturalistic as it gets. It's always been great, but I feel like it's somehow never been better than it is right now, which shows you that even though PNSO has been giving us probably some of the best prehistoric models out there for a very long time, they're still finding ways to improve on their product, which again is very commendable. But overall, this is definitely a very impressive release yet again, and for sure, a Yangchuanosaurus worth adding to any prehistoric collection. So if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where you can order this on the PNSO Amazon store and PNSO Aliexpress store. So make sure you check those links, go grab this gorgeous figure, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.